Canola oil is one of the healthiest cooking oils. When the canola seed arrives at the processing factory, it contains foreign material, mostly plant pieces. The seeds pass by a magnet. It removes any metal that may have fallen in during the journey from field to factory.
What are you eating right now? Are you eating self-hatred? Well, I want to welcome back a very special guest. This is our great friend, Suzanne Alexander, who is a world explorer and I think a true anthropologist. I really appreciate what you're doing. So great to have you back. And you're
Oh,
in
David, it's
one
so good to be
piece,
here,
right?
darling
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah.
Barely.
Yeah.
Wait till you hear. Wait till you hear the stories. Oh my
Now, wait a
God.
second. Do you have a green screen behind you? Are you actually still in the forest right now or no?
No, I wish I was. I
Yeah.
miss them terribly. I do.
Yeah.
It was just amazing to actually experience what being a human is all about. And I've always wondered, and now I understand. And there's no turning back. I would never want to be anything but how they are. They're just magnificent.
Wow. Like, what do you mean by being what does that mean? I mean, if we're talking about, by the way, the folks in Tanzania that you visited, right? Can you tell
Yes,
us the tribes?
I had with the 7 different tribes. So David, if you want, I'll bring up the slides
Sure.
because then it's visual. It's a visual thing. So let me
Sure.
just share the screen. Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to do hold on here. I'm going to
Slideshow.
I'm just trying to see it. Why is it showing me this? Sharing. Come on, get out of there. Okay. Now slideshow.
Yeah.
And then
Play from start.
play from
Yeah.
start. Here we go. Okay. Yay.
All right.
It's
Yeah.
working.
Wow.
I'm not tech savvy.
Yeah.
All right. So these are the tribes and that I was with in Tanzania. And here we go. And so I first started with Hadzabe. Now there were 7 tribes in all. You'll see 5 here, but there were 7. So first I did 1 Hadzabe. I did 2 Datoga because 1 Datoga, they are blacksmiths, and the other Datoga are pastoralists. And a pastoralist is someone who raises livestock. They're going to live, that's what they're living off of, basically, is their livestock.
Yeah.
Then we did the Iraq, and they're pastoralists, agro-pastoralists. They grow crops, but they also have their livestock. Then I did 2 Maasai. I just wanted to be able to see the 2 different Maasais, comparing them, and they were very much, very, very similar. My first Maasai group were extremely, very diligent with their lifestyle and trying to maintain their traditional ways. And the second one was so close. The only thing I found different with them is that they added actual tea to their chai. The first Maasai did not. They did not add the tea. They were just using their bark and the branches and things that they're known for. And I will talk about that. And then my last tribe was the Sanjo Betani tribe. So there were 7 in all. And that's what we did.
This was in Tanzania from what months or when were you?
I was there the whole month of February.
Okay, February. So for folks who are not familiar with your work, tell us, last time we did a podcast, you had gone to
the Pacific Islands. Yeah.
Right.
And we 7 different places there as well. They're countries because they're little islands all over the place.
Right.
And yeah, that was phenomenal. I learned there. Totally different because I went with Dr. Kenobi at that point, and we weren't really living with them. We would go and see them.
Right.
And we would leave, which is what most people do. Most people who say that they're researching them, they are not really living the life, which is what I've always wanted to do. Because I think if you really want to know the truth, you have to be there 24/7.
And what was the mission of your going to these tribes here?
In Tanzania.
Yeah.
So this I went solo, and this is and when I went with Chris, that was based on our foundations. That was the Ancestral Health Foundation that we went, and they covered most of the expenses on that one. This one, because I'm becoming more of an independent health and researcher now, health and nutrition researcher, is that I pay for myself. I have a life savings. And I'm depleting it quickly, but God will provide. He will. And I work for him now. I'm working with God, and he's holding my hand the whole time. And I wanted to go here. My grandmother, and it starts way back when I was a little girl, she lived with tribes. When I was a little girl, she lived with 3 different tribes for 3 years in Kenya, in Liberia.
Why did she live with them? Was she a missionary or?
She wanted to teach with them. She's part Native, she's Native American as well. And she just wanted to give back after she retired from teaching. And when she would come home to visit us and would just bring hundreds and hundreds of slides, and we would just sit there and I would just sit at her feet, Grandma, tell me more. And at like 5, 6 years old, my brain is starting to say, when she was telling me that they were the chill, because I was so sick, I've been sickly my whole life.
Right.
I didn't know I had celiac disease. And I would say, are they sick? And she said, no. And I said, tell me about them. And she would tell me about their food, the monkey brains and all, they were getting tubers. It's exactly what I saw. And there's something wrong with it. And that's when I started making my hypotheses as a little girl. And my father was a wildlife rehabilitator. And so I lived with wild animals and I watched how they were eating and they were never sick. But why was my father and myself always sick? Why were we always couldn't handle it?
Those are the first types of observations that begins the scientific method.
That was my side. And that's by 10, I finally said to my dad, I said, Dad, I think I know why we're sick. And he said, why? And I said, because I look at the animals that we're raising. I look at the people that Grandma lives with in Africa and they're not sick.
Right.
And he said, yeah, so what's your hypothesis? And I said, and he had his doctorate from Columbia University. And so he would work in the labs and things, and he'd bring home the rats that were dying and so forth.
Yeah.
And I said, Dad, our food is not like their food. I said, we have nothing but ingredients, Dad. I said, I look at Captain Crunch. I can't even tell you what some of these ingredients are.
Our food looks like pet food.
Yeah. And I said, Dad, we're giving our animals what their species specific diet is. And at that point, also at 5, my father was telling me to bring home books from the library about all the different animals that when I started going to school. He said, bring home books about the raccoon or the skunk or the fox or the deer. And we want to study their diet and their habitat. So we're sure we're giving them what they need. And that's the studying with the research. That's where I became so passionate about research. And so that's when at 10, I said, Dad, it's our food. It's how we're living. I said, it's not at all. Because my doctors were always saying, you need to take this, you need to take that. This is how you're going to be. I said, no, God doesn't make mistakes. No, we're perfectly designed. There's something not right. There's something not right. And so I wouldn't take all the things that they would give me because I just knew. And so now to be there and living it and experiencing it. And I've tried every diet known to man. I've tried, I'm not a supplement person because that's not, to me, it's not natural. They're not taking supplements out in the book, And so I was vegan for decades, and it was wonderful at first, because I had a hiatal hernia very young in my life, and that healed. Rare to have something like that heal. Migraines, just sinus and lung infections constantly. I was an opera singer. My vocal cords were literally fried because of the acid reflux coming up into it was awful. I mean, it was just so many constipation. I would go weeks and weeks without anything going to the bathroom.
That was before vegan or caused by vegan?
Before. Okay. And finally, when I graduated and left and went on to college to become an opera singer, my major was opera at that time, and a massive library full of books everywhere. And boy, that's where my research started.
By the way, who's your favorite opera singer?
Oh, Beverly Sills. She was one of my coaches. She became. She took me under her wing, and I was with the New York City Opera, and she gave me a lot of her directors and conductors and things as my coaches and so forth. And they called me Bubbles Junior because I sounded I'm a coloratura like she is. And they said every time I'd come in, Bubbles Junior is here, because her nickname was Bubbles. Yeah. And so she's always been, of course, Maria Callas, and there's just so many beautiful opera singers. But Beverly Sills, since I was 3, I always dreamed I would meet Beverly Sills. And my father always said, always put your goals high. And if you meet it halfway, then everything I've ever dreamed of doing, I have attained in my life.
Wow, that's awesome. So you believe in the power of like visualization and all that, right?
Yes, but the most important thing is I believe in God.
Right.
And everything I pray and I ask for his guidance, and I believe that everything.
Like Jesus says, when you pray as if it's already been done, and it shall be done.
Absolutely. And
we don't really believe that. We really don't believe that.
I live it. I live it.
I know, but I say it every day, and sometimes I don't believe it because it's hard.
But I also say thy will be done at the end.
Right.
Every prayer, because you know what? If
You
it's
don't
not
know.
in his
Yeah.
plan, then he's got better plans than I could ever imagine. And he always has. And I've had some disasters, some absolute extraordinary, horrible things happen in my life. But in the end, God always puts me on the right path, and everything, even the awful things that happened, the tragedies,
Yeah.
the abuse, the violence and things in my life, it made me a better person.
Right. For
You have
sure. I
more
mean,
passion, and you understand how to forgive
yeah.
and to love unconditionally, no matter what the situation
Right.
is, and I mean, I'm a sinner. I'm not perfect. The Lord still loves me every day, no matter what,
Right.
and I just think I laid out there for him, and I'm just so blessed. So when he laid this out for me, and he gave me Mateo and my
Yeah.
my team there were a group of Maasai that were
Mateo is your guide. Is that
my
right?
lead guide and
Yeah.
translator. And they're like my sons. I mean, I say my children because they're like the age of my children.
Yeah.
And we contact each other each day, and I miss them terribly. But I learned so much, David, and I hope that the viewers and the followers here are going to really listen
Oh, yeah.
carefully to the
Yeah.
wisdom, because I've learned so much, and I really thought I knew everything, a
Yeah.
lot of things, but to live it, it's a whole different thing. And
Right.
the piece that a lot of the social media influencers are missing.
Right.
We can bark
Everybody
out,
wants to sell something. We don't want to
and
just
that's
get
what
to
it
the,
is.
I just want to get to the truth. That's all I
That's it.
care about.
And I
That's
don't
all I
sell
care about.
anything, guys.
Yeah.
This is my own money.
Yeah.
If I could save a life, that's the greatest reward for
This
me.
is the tip of the spear of
Oh,
saving the future of humanity.
absolutely.
It's
And
just
it's the truth. And there's more to this than diet. So much more. And in the wisdom from these elders that were in their hundreds, guys. These are
wow.
people in their hundreds. And they're pristine. You would never know it if you saw them. When you compare them to the people that, people are showing online, oh, here's a 117-year-old, look at her, but they have no teeth, and they're just sitting there and they can hardly move.
Yeah.
These people
Yeah.
they have the most beautiful teeth you've ever seen in their hundreds. They're walking 12, 15 miles a day, still working. They don't stop.
Let me
And
guess. The secret is 7 servings of grains a day and vegetable oils on every meal, right?
No, I'll tell you what happens when they incorporate that, and you'll see this as we talk, because
Okay.
it's powerful. It's powerful what I've learned. So powerful. So anyway, we'll continue on. Let's see where we're going here. So here we go. This is where I was. So this is in
Okay.
Tanzania. You'll see up here, we're right next to Kenya. And
Yeah.
Tanzania and Kenya, this is where the Maasai live. And who's become a very, very dear friend of mine is the chief of all the Maasai. And if you go on onto my social media page, especially Instagram, it's where I do all my live chats. So that's really where I hang out. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, but I feel really safe and comfortable on Instagram.
Yeah.
And so that's where most of my action is. If you want to go see the live chats I've done, and if you want to see all the videos and everything.
By the way, where can people chip in to support your work? Because this is good stuff. We need a direct sell.
Thank you. And I don't know. I'm trying right now. I'm praying on this. I think I need to start another foundation, because I'm kind of now on my own.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to start my own. And if you guys have any thoughts of how you think I should do this, I would love that, because my friends have said, oh, do what do you call it? Fund me or something.
Fund me, yeah.
So, and I'm like, no, because I think they take a percentage. And I said, I want everything to go to help the tribes, to help me to continue to afford to go. And I live very cheap. I mean, even though the last trip cost me $22,000.
Wow.
And a lot of it is just the traveling. And I stayed in a tent. I was living with a tribe.
That wasn't a hotel, that's for sure.
I was not. I mean, you'll see what my toilet and my shower were.
That wasn't catering either, was it? That wasn't catering.
No. And of course, I had to pay my crew. I had to pay for the traveling. It became, and I was buying a lot of gifts, and the gifts I gave each of the tribe was their livestock.
Mm-hmm.
And it was adding up, because I wanted to give back to them, and I just, so it did cost me a lot, but I would do it again, and I'm going to be doing it again, because I had to
give them cows.
I gave them, you'll see it, there's pictures. I gave them, and they're always pregnant, because I wanted to give them 2 for 1, because they'd always get 2 in the end. Wow. So I would and cows are their greatest gift, if you can give them a cow, especially a red cow. But then they also have goats and sheep as well. So usually I would give them a pregnant cow, a pregnant goat, and a pregnant sheep.
Wow.
And so it was just very wonderful to be able to know that they're going to have continuation of food for quite a while. And so anyway, so here we are. This is where there's Kenya. Here we are here. We're in the Arusha. This is the region. You fly into Kilimanjaro Airport.
Mhm.
And then Tembo, my driver, he's also Maasai. You'll see pictures. They came and they got me at the airport, and then we drove and we drove and we drove. It looks like it's a small area, but it's not. It's hours and hours. So just from Arusha to get to, it was like 10 hours just to get 10, 12 hours. And yeah, it was a long time. So here they are. They're here on Lake Aisi. And so the Hadzabe, this is very important. The government has taken away so much of their ancestral land. And now they're all living. Look how close they all are here, David. Look at this. This is the Hadzabe, the Datoga, and the Iraq. They're all living here, sharing their land. The Datoga and the Iraq are pastoralists. They're going to be grazing area. The Hadzabe are the last of the hunters and gatherers. What does that mean? It means that they are sharing the hunting ground where all the cattle and the livestock are grazing. And they've all got bells on and got the donkeys, they're making all their sounds. And what is that doing for the Hadzabe? What I witnessed, there was nothing there to hunt. We saw the tracks of the hyenas, we saw the tracks of the antelope, but they weren't there because you hear all these bells coming, and I think it just scares them away. So they're not having the success, at least the tribe I live with. Now, I believe that there are other tribes. We were very, very remote. I did not want to be with tribes that are, and many of the people who say that they're going to see these tribes, they're the tourist tribes they're going to see. They're designed to have tourists be there. These people are actually living this. I wanted the most remote tribes we could find that are true to the lifestyle. And so you'll see in the pictures, you'll see as we go along. This is my crew. And so here we are. This is Meneno. He's from the He's from the Aramba tribe. So he is not a Maasai. And so they will eat plants, but they also eat meat, his tribe. Not as heavy on meat as the Maasai. Of course, there's me, and this is Mateo. He is my lead guide, and this is Tembo. He is my driver, but also a translator as well. And this is our mighty Land Cruiser. It was so neat. This whole top lifts up off of it. So when we're driving along and you see zebras and we just, all of a sudden they pop it open. I'm like, oh my goodness, it was so amazing. I mean, it would just make you cry with the beauty. And of course, there's videos of those as well that you can see on my Instagram page as well, or Facebook. This was our first area that we tented in. And I have a video, and it actually shows that they were wonderful. It was like we were one of the first people to come and live with them. And so there's stumps and all this, they were clearing out so we can get our tents in there without having all these things sticking out. They were so loving and so helpful. And so this was where the guys slept over here. And then this was my little tent over here.
Yeah.
And then this is our supplies and things that we brought. This was my bathroom. So I had my toilet paper, and this was my shower. So every morning, Meneno, who was my cook, he would fill it with warm water. And then I would go out in the bush praying that there wasn't a cobra or a python or anything poisonous out there. You're out by yourself and you squat, everything you have to squat. And you have to know how to squat if you want to survive this. And so many people in our culture, I want you to try this when you're listening to this, get up and do a flat foot squat and see if you can go to the bathroom. Because it's your life. You have to be able to do this.
That's the natural way humans are supposed to be.
Absolutely. And I've got videos. If you go on to my, I have another YouTube channel. It's called Fountain of Youth TV. And I had that like 10 years ago. My daughter started it for me. But that's when I was vegan. So you'll see me as a vegan, and then, I'm moving on. And so, and I talk heavily about the flat foot and how it's so vital to us being a human. This is what we're designed to do. Sitting is actually harming us. It's actually harming our back. It's harming our pelvic region, our organs. We're totally getting, everything's all bound up. We need to squat. And this was just heavenly to me. I would literally, but I was a little, again, in fear factor 24/7 because I didn't know, am I out squatting and is something going to come up and bite me? In a thought I don't want to be bitten in. And it was so every morning I would go out with a little pan of warm water and without soap, because this is what they do. And I just kind of splash on my face and my arms and just that's how you kind of clean up. You know, you don't wash your hair. So I had my hair in a braid most of the time because it's very long. And then your toilet paper. They use leaves. They use leaves. I was going to do that, but because I'm so sensitive, I thought for my first time in Africa, maybe it's best to just acclimate this first trip. The next trip, I'll try the leaves and see, because I'm so, you'll see what happens later on the story, the saga. So that was what we do. This is their village. Isn't it beautiful?
Mhm.
Notice their huts, they're domed shaped, they're different looking compared to what we had in the Pacific Islands.
Yeah.
Notice this down here, there's actually plastic bags. There's plastic that they'll find around the environment, and they'll use that to fill in their holes so that they don't get wet. I just thought, oh, look at this. You know, it's just so, but look at the landscape. It's just so, and again, think about ancestral living. Think about your eyes. I just posted this morning about our eyes. David, their eyes were unbelievable. I mean, the night vision was, I couldn't see a thing. I'm tripping out there. Thank goodness I had my cell phone flashlight, and they're walking as if they can see. They hunt at nighttime. They don't have flashlights.
Yeah.
They can see so perfectly. Even the elders, there's no glasses there. And the way they're beading, the women make all this jewelry because that's how they make money to help to afford things they need. And there was a 76 maybe year old woman. She's just beading away, and they're teeny tiny little things. It was remarkable, remarkable. So we went hunting with the tribe. And of course, remember, they're hunters and gatherers, and this is how they live. And they only use bow and arrow. There's no guns, nothing. This is the old way. They make everything themselves. And there was nothing to be hunted. All they kept shooting at was birds. And they ended up finally getting a red-billed hornbill. And here it is. And I've got videos on this. They're very graphic. The videos I'm posting are extremely graphic. I've always got the warning because I don't want anyone to get upset with me. There's a warning always.
Do they take your videos down because of the content?
No, it's so far. The only thing is Instagram did on one of them just say they put a warning. They said they will not take it down. They're being very kind to me. Facebook sometimes says it, so far, nothing.
Okay.
But so this right here, you'll see on the video, this bird is alive.
Okay.
And he takes it and puts it in his mouth and crushes the head with his teeth. I was like, oh, because this is the first time I'm experiencing these things. But
does he eat the head straight, or does he go?
No, I said, oh, you're going to eat it like that, but he didn't. This is
just how he killed
Pele.
him.
He wanted to put him out of his misery. And then this, I could never, Pele, I could pronounce his name. The rest of them, because they had all these clicks in them, I couldn't pronounce.
Is he crushing the head, or is he breaking the neck?
Crushing the head. Wow. You can literally put his head in and just crush the skull. It was a little, but that's on the video. You can actually see it. You
imagine that in Snow White as the opening, huh?
Yeah. I was like, oh,
the new Snow White should include that scene.
And so then this tribesman puts it in his like little belt that he's got on the side. And that's how they're going to do it. Then they make a fire. And of course, they're going to cook it right there because they knew it wasn't enough to take back to the tribe. And we'd already walked probably 12 miles at this point. And so it was just a bit of nourishment for us to have. And we all just a little teeny tiny little piece. And again, everything's on the video. I videotaped as much as I possibly could. Nothing is cut. It is what it is. And here they go. Here they're looking for, in a baobab tree, they're looking for honey. There was a bunch of bees up there. And we're thinking, oh my gosh, this is it. We're going to find the mother lode, you know? So because it's just a flat tree, there's little branches to climb on. They actually will sit there and make these little pegs that they pound in. You see how he's climbing them?
Yeah.
And you go up and he gets up there. Here's one. They find another nest on another one of our a couple miles away. There's another nest like within a plant. And they're thinking there's all these bees. It's going to be great. Well, we get in there after all this work and they've got to build fires and so forth. The one on the ground, it was brand new one, nothing in it, empty. The one way up high in the baobab, old one, nothing. And why? Because it's seasonal. Anyone out there who's telling you that they eat honey every day, wrong, misinformation. It is not available.
Fake news.
Big news. And so, guys, huge. We don't eat honey every day. It's not natural. Just like a lot of fruits, you'll see this coming up. It's seasonal eating. And
what season is it? Do they get it?
Right now, this is the wet season. It's they're coming into the flowers were not out yet. There was no pollen, there's no nectar for the bees to take from. You've got to have the plants to get the nectar to make your honey. So it makes sense. I was like, aha. And so there you have it. It is not
What's the weather temperature?
For when we were there, it was I loved it. I mean, a lot of people think it's too hot during the day, depending on the region where what tribe we were with. When I was with the Hadzabe and the Datoga and the Iraq, it was very, very warm, 24/7.
Yeah.
We didn't have any rain the entire that time when I was with them. I loved it. It was very warm because 90s during the day, 80s and 90s. And then when we went to the Mateos Maasai group, it was warm during the day, and at night I was freezing, and it would rain, torrential rain at nighttime. So it was very green and lush, and there was some fruit available, which you'll see. This is how they drink their water, and it doesn't matter what condition it is. They are not assessing the water. This is what they drink. And I believe that we hear so much in research that they've got the most diverse gut microbiome because they say they eat the baobab plant, and they're very all these plants that they're eating. I'm sorry, that may be a piece to it, but their gut microbiome is so diverse because they're drinking out of who knows what's in this. And I go to springs. All my water I drink is from a spring. And I know people
be careful, Susie, you're going to get some.
Well, but I will tell you, I know.
Yeah. Some tech bro is going to go bottle this water and sell it to rich people in Silicon Valley for $80 a bottle.
Because people get sick, because I've given some of my water to people. Chris, one of them, and he got very sick because it's got stuff in it.
Oh, you took it back from Tanzania?
No. The water I get from here, from my home. In my region, it's about 12 miles from my house. I go once a month and I get 15 gallons of water, which is what I drink every day. Yeah. And I've given it to people. And Chris was one of them, and he got very sick because I'm sure that it's got microbes. It's probably got some E. coli from animals and so forth. Who knows what they're doing? But my gut microbiome, I'm so strong in terms of my immune system and what I can handle. Same with these guys, because they're consuming, and their knives that they're using to kill these animals and cut them up, they aren't washing them. They wipe it off and they put it away, or they let the dog lick it, or whatever it is. There's so many germs, and that's the key. Another piece to being healthy: stop being so clean. They don't wash all the time.
Yeah,
we don't. We're not. Do the wild animals? Are they always bathing? Are they always? No, all this microbial, let's wash this and that off. You're killing the good germs. We can thrive. God doesn't make mistakes again.
Yeah.
He's miraculous. And
what about like parasites and stuff? Is that in the water?
And that's another thing we're going to talk about. This is the key thing. David, there's so much I want to cover. Oh my gosh.
Is that running water, by the way, or is that just
I did not see any. This one possibly is maybe this one, the middle one. It may have been some water running down into it. This one looked very stagnant because they went in and they had to swish it to kind of move a lot of the muck off the top of it.
Yeah.
So it probably is just something that come dry season, July, August, September, October, that will be probably gone. A lot of these will have dried up.
Yeah.
This is their favorite fruit. Everyone says it's the baobab. It is not. I asked the Hadzabe and they said, and the Maasai. This is called the wild plum, and it looks very much like a cherry tomato. And there's a video, I just put this out the other day too, that you peel the skin. It's very important that you do exactly what they should say, because I'm sure that they know there's probably anti-nutrient or something in the skin that they don't want, but they just say peel it. There's a pit on the inside. They actually, I said to Mateo, oh, there's a pit in here. And he's like, just eat it. But I don't do nuts and seeds because I don't digest them well. He was crushing through them and just swallowing it. It's very sour, very bitter. It was not sweet, and yet they love it. And you will hear Mateo, he's a Maasai, saying, oh, I love this. This is my favorite. And it's not sweet. It's not something I would go gravitate towards. I was like, wow. And you'll hear me on the tape like, whoa, this is powerful. It was, wow. It was very, very bitter, very sour. Yeah, but it's loaded with potassium and vitamin C. And it's a great source of sodium, magnesium, phosphorus, and calcium. So this is very powerful.
It has the texture of a plum or something different?
It's kind of like a jelly type kind of inside of it. Very much like you'd see very similar to like a plum, but wow, very sour and bitter at the same time. So, and this is one of the Hadzabe doing the same thing. He's getting some of it too.
Are they picking it before it's fully ripe, or is that the ripe level?
It's in the ripe season right now.
Okay.
Some of them will get even more orange. And then we saw some trees that they were kind of past ripe. So it was perfect. I was so happy I was there to experience this.
Yeah.
And then this is interesting. We've never heard of the Hadzabe consuming dairy because they don't. However, now that the government is taking away most of their tribal ancestral land, they're all living together. And so with that said, you can see over here, this is the cattle coming down where the Hadzabe hunt.
Mhm.
How are they going to have animals out roaming, wild animals that they can hunt when you've got all these shepherds and all their animals coming in? It's going to scare them away. So they're just, my heart was broken for them to see them working so hard to find animals to bring back to their tribe to
Do
consume.
the
And
hunters try to accidentally kill the cows and stuff, or
no, oh no, because they're become friends. So
okay,
we stopped at this Datoga
yeah,
family. This is an Iraq family. We stopped at the Iraq family on the way back,
yeah,
and they brought them milk, fresh milk. And you can see here, this is Happiness, and she's
yeah,
giving us fresh milk. And I'm like, oh my goodness, they've become friends. And now, they're helping each other. Isn't this beautiful?
yeah,
So
yeah.
now the Hadzabe, this group, are actually consuming a new food that they're not used to, but they love it.
It's not
They
given.
love
They don't have lactose intolerance or anything.
so far that nothing. But
Okay.
with this, you won't, because raw milk
Yeah,
has lactase, which we've lost. As we
yeah,
when we wean from our moms, we
yeah,
stop the production of lactase.
yeah,
But the raw milk still has that in it.
yeah.
And so I'm actually now I consume, 16 ounces of raw sheep milk every day now. I'm trying to see how my body's, I don't
But you
have,
weren't doing dairy before this, right?
I
Yeah,
haven't done
yeah,
dairy probably since I
yeah,
was a little girl because I had
yeah.
so many bad reactions all the
Right.
time. But I thought raw milk. And so with my girls, Sarah and Ashley Armstrong with the Nourish, that's where I get my raw milk from.
So what do you think is happening? Some people who even drink raw milk itself still have distress drinking it. What do you think that's caused?
Then they're just hypersensitive. And I really believe with all my heart, and after being on this trip, I really believe that we can't say that there's one specific diet for all people.
Right.
Even though my pet raccoons and my skunks and deer and fox and all those, they had their species specific because, that's what a raccoon, humans are not the same way. We've got their genes are all the same. They're not interbreeding. Okay. A raccoon breeds with a raccoon. But when you think of us, I mean, my
Yeah.
goodness, it's just my DNA alone. I've got
Right.
Native American, French, and Irish. So they're from all different regions and all different diets and so forth. What's going to work best for me? We have to listen to our
Yeah.
bodies and look at our ancestors. What were they living? What were they eating? And that may be a key to what's best for you. But I do believe that there are certain foods we should stay away from. And that was evident with the tribes. So let's continue on. So here we are. I got back to the tribe and my heart was broken because we had nothing for the tribe. The women had gone out and gotten their tubers and their greens and things, but there was no meat for the tribe. So I looked at my boys and I said, guys, let's get in the car. I want to take my these are my Hadzabe. And
You
of
didn't
course,
go to Walmart, did you?
no, thank goodness they don't have that there. But I just said, let's all get in the car. Let's take our hunters with us. I want to take them out to lunch. And then I want to find some place we can buy them a goat, a sheep, something to slaughter. And they're like, no, none of the local tribes are going to do that. They're not going to part with theirs. I said, God, it's God's plan. And so we went down. It was so adorable. Their restaurants are so different. They're kind of open and there's
How far do you have to travel to get to a restaurant when you're out here?
this was probably maybe 12, 15 miles away. It wasn't
Okay.
bad. And so they can walk, they will walk. They will walk. The women will take their beads and things and their jewelry that they make. And once a week they will walk to go to the village and sell their things so they can make money. Because they like their alcohol. They do drink, and we'll talk about that.
Okay.
And so we get down to this restaurant. And they've got meat. It's beautiful. I wish we had these fresh meat that was just slaughtered, hanging, and you pick what you want, and they cook it right there on a fire, open fire. And so they brought this big platter, not dishes, just a big like wooden platter with all this beautiful cut up meat on it, and they were just loving it, loving it.
Lamb or beef?
It was beef. This was a fresh cut beef.
Yeah.
Beef. Most of the time I was getting lamb and sheep and goat and so forth when we go places, but they had beef that day, so we had the cuts of beef. I wish I had gotten videos. I was so bummed. I was so bummed I forgot. But they learned to finally whenever I'd say smile in my language because they normally they're look at the teeth. Look at those teeth. Aren't they gorgeous?
Yeah.
Just gorgeous. Just beautiful. So this is the lamb. We finally stopped and we kept stopping and stopping. And finally it was a Iraq Datoga group. It's a mother. She was the Iraq. The husband was a Datoga. They had intermarried, and they were willing to sell an 8-month-old lamb to us. And so I bought the lamb for them. And then we went back, and this is a very graphic video. It's a two-parter
Yeah.
of Mateo showing the Hadzabe how the Maasai slaughter an animal. And it was very difficult for me. Again, this was the first time I'd ever experienced it. And so I was being a good girl and I was just getting through it. But then I started realizing I had to take my heart out of this and understand this is what keeps them alive. This is their so any vegan, which I was.
So first you started to regret buying that lamb for them, and then you
No, I never
Yeah.
regret it. It was
Yeah.
just hard for me to watch this
Yeah.
because I love animals so much.
Yeah.
But I understand that we need them to live.
Yeah.
In doing this, and eventually just I was in so many slaughter camps the whole time I was there. It just kind of became, oh, here we go. It just became
So the hunters were teaching the pastoralists, or what? Or they were teaching
no, the pastoralist, which is Maasai, is
Okay.
teaching the hunters how they, because
Oh,
normally
okay.
when the hunters just do it, it's just kind of they just go through it. But he was showing them an easy way that just makes it, and they were like, they were loving watching him
Wow.
do this. It made such sense, and the video is profound because I mean, things I would never have thought of. It was so brilliant.
What was he
And
trying to do? What was he doing to help them? Easier to do what?
just to how to make the most of the meat you're
Okay.
getting, and what to do with the skin, what to do. It was just so, and how to cook things.
So the
This is-
hunters don't do that. They just
they
go.
just they get through it. They just hack
Yeah,
through it and just
yeah.
get through this. But it was brilliant, and it's quite
So
lengthy.
would the hunter, I'm just trying to visualize what we're dealing with. You're saying like when the hunters, if they were to grab an animal like that in the wild, they would just eat the fur, or what, are they going to char it off?
No, they would
That's
just
the
cut
method?
through it. They would just cut
Ah.
through it and just cut the pieces. But
Okay.
the Maasai do it in such a methodical way.
Okay, got it.
Look, they'll say, look at the line here. We can cut right through
Yeah.
this line. It slowly falls apart. Just things that were just wow. And then the great thing
Interesting.
is with the Maasai, I haven't done this yet because I've got to create the slide that will show that each of the body parts of the animal are given to specific people and
Yeah.
genders within their tribe.
Oh, that's cool.
And so like the chest, I can't remember. The chest, I think, goes to the young boys. The back goes to the young girls. The one leg will go to the neighbors. The kidney, I think, goes to the the kidney the men get. The goat liver, I think, goes to the old men. The sheep liver and the cow liver go to the women. Everything must be divided equally, and everyone gets specific things for a reason. Why do you think the women are getting two versions of the liver? Why? What's would be so important for the women? Because when they have their period, menstruation, they need more of the iron. They need more
Yeah.
of the things that's in the liver. It's brilliant how they are thinking.
Like helps like, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So that's not just a little thing. They're actually doing that.
They know there's a reason for everything they do. There's a reason for everything, and they're brilliant.
Yeah.
This is what the meal that they got to have.
Okay.
And everything is dark. So think about, had our flashlights not been shining down on them,
Yeah.
they would be eating in the dark with only the little flickering of their flame of their little fire.
Yeah.
And this is all, however, because their land is being taken away and their
Whose
food,
light is that's your light?
that's our light. Yeah,
Okay.
Mateo had a really nice flashlight that he was holding up.
Okay.
And so I'm like, oh.
That looks like a movie the way it's so
Yeah,
natural,
it was
right?
just the flashlight coming down on it. It was a brilliant light he had.
Yeah.
Notice they've incorporated ugali. They don't have enough food. They're run because there's not enough animals to hunt anymore, and so now they're actually using ugali. So
What's
they're
that?
taking it's a cornmeal. They call it maize, of course, maize mixed with water, and it's just like doughy. And they eat that. So they were using this in this bowl over here. They're using that because we had boiled meat with a whole bunch of fat, and it makes this wonderful like sauce and for them. And they were scooping, and they were just loving it. They were just, and the women were doing the same thing over here. So this is the women over here. The Maasai way is they skewer on a stick. This is the ribs, this is a leg, and this is the liver. And they keep it. There's not a big flame. It's just the coals, and it's a slow cook of that meat. Although, remember, it's not aged. It is as fresh as you can get. So they're not going to have high histamine meat. Again, they are not going to have histamine issues because they're not eating meat that's been sitting and growing this bacteria and histamine issues. It was very, very tough, extremely tough. And they were powering through this, all their food and all the tribes. Like their jaws are, no wonder their teeth are immaculate. They're just, they chew through this stuff. And it took me like 15 minutes to get through one piece of meat, and they got through it in seconds.
That was Maasai?
but no, this is all the tribes. So
Oh,
this is even the Hadzabe. Their meat is very tough because it's not aged, you
yeah.
know, and they just cook it and it's so nutrient dense. And
So the
there's
picture on the bottom left is the hunter-gatherer way. Right?
this is Maasai way. This is how
The,
the Maasai
the
cook it.
bottom left. And then what
Yes.
else?
And then again, this is you know, slaughtering the lamb, and this
Okay.
is the men eating the food that we brought, and this is the women. Again, notice it's very dark. If the lights were not on, they would be sitting in complete darkness
They
eating.
allowed you to observe both and sit with
Yeah, I
both?
could do anything because they accepted. They were so. We learned so much from each other.
Yeah.
I mean, just having a white person there, and of course with my hair, they'd never seen this. You know, they were just touching it and touching it. My muscles, I'm a bodybuilder, and they were just like, "What is this? You know, what is this?" And you'd think that they would have. They're not muscular. They're not. You know, they're very fit, extremely fit, very lean, but they don't have muscles. And they're like, "What did you do?" So I was showing them, you know, I lift, and they're like, "Why?" I said, "You know, in all the tribes, I said, you don't think it's important to have muscles?" They're like, "No, you walk." You walk. That's what's important for humans. And so those of us who are preaching out there that we're supposed to be really buff and although
Yeah.
I do love to lift. I think for me, it's what I need. I love to climb. I love to do all the things I do. But they felt that what's up with that? You know,
Yeah.
they
So they're
didn't,
not a big fan of the gym bro culture, right?
no, not, they thought that was ridiculous. They really, it was like, what? You know,
Especially, they
really?
would probably be very surprised to think of men spending hours a day staring
Oh,
at
I
the
showed them
mirror.
pictures. I
Oh,
showed them pictures. I said, what do you think? And they're like, they did not like that. They did not like that. They were like, ah, you know, no, no. And so now here are the women. So I went out and spent time with the women. I wanted to make sure I understood their whole lives, you know.
yeah.
And this is their digging, and there's a whole video on this as well. This is the Shumako tuber.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is very important to them. It looks like a sweet potato. You can see it looks just like a sweet potato.
Yeah.
And they dug and they found quite a few of them. And
Yeah.
of course, they all have children, but so they leave the children at home with other women, and then, well, so they can get their work done. They want to get things done. So
Right.
we did this. We also collected firewood while we were out there, and then we came back. But they're not just gatherers;
Right.
they are hunters, and they hunt for rodents.
Yeah.
They will look for rodents. And this day they only found one, but they told me that often they'll find 15. And I said, and what are
So
you
they're
doing?
micro hunters, or do they hunt big
Yes.
stuff too?
They really they're the micro ones. They hunt the small animals. And I said, you know, what do you do? And they said, we cook them. And like, oh, there you go. That's wonderful. So they are hunters. So I don't just call them gatherers. These women are also hunters as well. And
Now, is this as what's the age of this lady that's holding this mouse?
I think she was in her 60s. Remember, they don't know their ages. They don't know. She thinks she's between 60s and 70s.
Wow.
Yeah. And you'll notice her clothing. I said, you know, where do you get your clothing from? A lot of times Catholic Charities, some of the missionaries and so forth will come and bring them clothes.
Yeah.
Or sometimes if they've got their money from their jewelry, that they have like thrift shops and things that they can go and buy things from. And so
Are they exposed to American media culture? Like, do they know about Superman vaguely, or no? They've never seen this stuff.
I don't think they know. I don't.
Okay.
I think there's shirts that they either are brought from
Yeah.
and they just wear it whatever they have.
Yeah.
They really did not, you know, I was showing the pictures of themselves and stuff. It was like, they could, you know, this is what we look like, you know, and I said, smile, I'll show you the difference, you know, like, so it was beautiful.
Are they
Again,
a traditionally clothed society, or recently they've adopted clothes like clothing?
no, I think that they've been wearing the clothes for quite a while.
Okay.
Some of them still have their traditions. You'll see in the videos that they're still
Yeah.
wearing their pelts and things, and they still have some of their typical that they would wear.
Yeah.
But I think that they're wearing it because they're free. They're given to them.
Yeah.
Over here, like in the Pacific Islands, is exactly the same thing. Those shack-like stores that, of course, are selling their cigarettes and the processed chips and gum and candy, but they also sell the big, huge tubs of oil.
Oh gosh.
And guess what their favorite oil is?
Oh God.
Sunflower.
Oh.
One of the worst. One of
Because
the
they're in that area.
Yeah. And so this is the one. I thought Fiji was bad because they had the soybean,
Yeah.
but sunflower, it just takes it to the next level. I
They're
mean,
not
that's
too
right up
far
there with
away from
safflower.
they're not too far away from the region where sunflower oil is really
Yeah.
dominant. Yeah.
Yeah. And so of course it's whatever is processed in that
Were they
region.
cooking sunflower oil with your meat and
They,
stuff?
they did not, and you'll hear them talking in one of the live Instagrams. I asked them, and they said no, no, and they told me that they've had some of their tribe members who have left to think that they're going to have a better life, being more Americanized. They returned because they were getting so sick. They came back to their culture, and they
So
and they
who's
said,
buying it? They're stocking it. Somebody's buying it, and what are they
well,
using?
I'm sure there are the tribes, probably the people that if you drive around, there's a lot of homes and different things everywhere. But if you're with a remote tribe, we had to drive miles to get to find the goat that day. And this is on our way to find the goat or the sheep that I bought for and so this was miles away from where they are.
Okay.
And you'll notice a lot of them have motorcycles and some of them have bikes, and this is how they get to certain places. They will have these things with them. No cars, but this is how some of them get around.
Yeah.
This is what I found. So they had small little stores in this is more towards like Arusha and other where there's more populated. So you're not gonna see a lot of tribal people. These are the people who have moved away from their tribes or so forth. They had small little stores like this, and then they had the bigger stores like a supermarket. And this is what I found. I've been kind of tracking the Pringles because I've been finding it's starting in the Pacific Islands to see what they've got. In the Pacific Islands, most of what they had, their first ingredient was palm oil. Palm oil is like a 10 to 12 linoleic acid level.
Yeah.
Sunflower oil, you'll see up here, sunflower is 68% LA.
Yeah.
Just below safflower, which is like 72, I believe.
Yeah.
Palm oil, again, 10%. That's another ingredient. And in corn oil, 58%, and rapeseed, 22%. That's all within this. So you can see that wherever the region is, Pringles modifies the ingredients and makes whatever seems to be the popular choice.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. But this tribe, adamant, we do not eat the processed food. The only thing that they've added to their diet is ugali. And they did say to me that since they've added that they have found a lot more health issues. And that was across the board.
What health issues did they say?
They're just saying that they feel that they're aging, they're getting more body aches, they're just coming down.
Where are they getting the ugali?
That's what they're paying for. They're using the money from the beads and stuff. And when they
Where are they getting it? At the grocery store?
They go to when they go to the village, remember that village that we about 10 miles, 12 miles, they go and then they're buying the ugali.
So they're not processing it from like real corn or anything.
Well, the Iraq tribe that lives where they get the milk from, they grow corn and they do process their own. And I'll tell you that when we get there. I'll tell you the story what they told me there. Okay. This is the Datoga. So we left our wonderful Hadzabe, and now we're going to stay with the Datoga, two Datoga tribes. This tribe is these are the blacksmiths that we first stayed with. Okay. And so here they are. This is their huts. You can see they're not domed, they're more flat shaped. And these are made with mud and the dung from the cows. It does not smell. It does not smell at all. I was always wondering, what's it going to smell like? But it was very earthy. I was loving every moment. The only thing that was difficult was, again, the fear factor of not knowing, and I didn't know. Mateo told me that all the rocks, I'm a climber. I climb trees, I climb rocks. I'm climbing the rocks with some of the Hadzabe, and the pictures were just spectacular from the top. I didn't realize that in where all these rocks I'm climbing, where pythons were he said, "You're so lucky you didn't see a python." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "I didn't say anything because I just knew if you started looking, you probably," I go, "Oh my golly." So, you don't know what you're going to see. So that was my fear factor always. But the flies and the mosquitoes were unbelievable. I mean, literally all over you. They were literally, you could see here on my lives. You open your mouth and they're flying into you. I mean, they're just everywhere, literally covered with flies. And
everywhere you go in the forest, or
just around their huts.
Yeah.
When we were hunting, it wasn't that bad. It was because they're pastoralists. Yeah. The milk and so forth, the flies are just everywhere. I mean, it's the only thing and that's what Mateo said. That's his belief, because he said that's how it is when we were there at his village. He said, I think it's because of the milk. I think it just draws them. But it was horrendous. But I didn't care because I was living like a human. So there's two boys. They're in their 30s, and their grandfather taught them how to be a blacksmith. And so here they are. This is the other brother. And these are the things they'll walk 10, 12, 15 miles to get to the villages. And while they're walking, they're looking for any scrap metal. It could be old nails, it could be padlocks, it could be anything. And they're recycling. And they'll take them back, they'll melt them down, and they'll make them into things like this. I don't know if you can, this right here, you're seeing it was a nail. This is right here. And this is, and they barter with the other tribes. So this is for the Hadzabe, who are hunters, and they use this for their bow and arrows. And so this is one, boy, can you imagine that going into an animal? Look at the barbs on that sticking in. So the Hadzabe will bring honey when they have it and swap it to get what they need, their knives and so forth. So all the metal things that you're seeing, any of the tribes are using. So I've got spears here, I've got bows. Here's an arrow. Look at this arrow.
Yeah.
Okay. But this is a rare arrow because this was made by a Maasai tribe that used to be blacksmiths. They're no longer around anymore. So this was a very rare find. And so they work with each other. All the tribes are now working together. It's really beautiful, really beautiful. Okay, so I asked them what their diet was. I'm thinking they're really pastoralists because they're Datogas. They weren't. They're mostly vegan. They really have, all of their livestock has been moved because they said we're working, we're creating all day long. We can't be out tending to livestock. I said, well, what are you eating? And they said, well, we mostly eat ugali and makande. Makande is kidney beans and corn boiled in water. And you'll see a picture of that in one of the other tribes. And that's what they eat. And I'm like, so you're basically vegan. Their teeth were nice. They were all intact, but they're not as pristine as you'll see with the tribes who don't really consume a lot of plants. They're eating more animal. And I think it's because the animal chewing all that meat, it cleans their teeth. Okay. And I don't know if they're, especially the Maasai, in Maasai and Hadzabe, they were very adamant about I'll talk about a stick that they use. And I've got one here somewhere. And here it is right here. We'll talk about it later. But they use this is what they use to clean their teeth. I don't think you can tell that they're not. This man right here is 102 years old. This is the grandson. And there's a video I have of him. Okay. He is so spry, not as spry as the Maasai were at this age, but he was still sharp as a tack, no glasses. I asked him, do you have a hard time seeing and hearing? He said, not really. He goes, I mean, maybe from a distance, it's not as good as it used to be, but I can still see. And he walks and he walks.
He eats no meat, huh?
Well, I asked him, I said, well, what do you think is your key to longevity? And of course, that was it translated. And he said, meat, milk, and blood. But he's not eating that now. I think this in his youth, he was eating that because the boys there's nothing for him. So I think that's why
they've transitioned. And how long ago and they transitioned to vegetables?
I'm thinking probably over the past couple decades.
Okay.
And you could see when you see
before the vegans say that gets you to 102 eating vegan. No, he was eating.
Oh, he was eating this for most of his life. What? Most of his life, he was eating meat, milk, and blood.
Okay, meat, milk, and blood. What got him to 102?
That's what got him. Yeah, and absolutely, that's what got him to that point. That's what they're saying. Okay, now here we are. We're getting ready to go to our next Datoga. Now these will be the pastoralists. These guys live very much, and they look very much like the Maasai. So again, this is the family. This is the women that were there. Okay, you can see how he is. This is the 102-year-old, and this is one of the boys.
Yeah.
And so this is our next campground. And so here we are. We're right out, the livestock, literally, we're right around. So you come out of your tent and there's like a donkey standing there. I mean, you're right out there with them. And I loved it. And of course, this is where you go to the bathroom. You just go out and find a bush somewhere and hoping no one can walk by, and that's where you go. And so this is our setup. So here we are, and we're getting ready. I said, can we go, and where do you get your water from? And so they said, well, right now, during the wet season, we actually have a spring not too far from here. I was like, oh my goodness, and so here's the spring. Here they are. And they use plastic, which I wasn't too thrilled with. I was like, oh golly, they're using plastic now. I asked them, what did you guys all use before plastic? And they said, we would have made clay pots.
Yeah.
Would have been what we would have used. And then for cups, this is from the Maasai. This is what their cups were. They would use the horns from the cattle. This is a cup. So I've always wondered, and isn't that clever? Very good. Good use. They use everything. They use everything. Yeah. And again, these were some of the bracelets that the boys made. The Datoga, they made a brass. This was out of a brass padlock,
Mhm.
and here's some old copper piping that they'd found.
And
So
none of
it's just
these are tourist tribes. These are all doing this legit
they're
24/7.
doing this, yeah, and it's amazing. And this tribe had never really been exposed to any white person. So when I got there, they were like kind of taken back. They'd never seen, green eyes, the hair again. My skin kept touching my skin. Oh, it's so soft. I said, well, so is yours, And then again, the muscles. What is this? What is this? I'm wearing pants. A woman wearing pants,
Yeah.
like they were odd. And so then Gish, there was their spokesperson, he's probably in his 30s. His name was Gish. And I asked him, I always ask permission, can I take pictures and videos, and he was, no, you can't. And I said, I understand. And I was like, well, please, Lord, please help them to understand. When we went to go get the water, whenever I see something to jump over, I jump because I'm a jumper. And so I was jumping over the things. And of course, to see a woman running and jumping, they were just like, what? Women don't do this. And so I said, they're laughing. I go, come on, join in. So there's a video I'm going to be posting pretty soon showing them. The men were taking these huge bushes that they were jumping over and they were loving it. So I took a picture of Gish and I showed him. He'd never seen himself before. He's like, that's me? I'm like, yes. And so I said, do it again and I'll take a video. So I took a video and then after that, he was like, more. So that's again, how I was able to get pictures and videos. This is what their homes look like. Again, very much like the last Datoga we were at, the flat. The women usually make these. The women are the ones that build their huts. And the Hadzabe are monogamous. They only have one wife. And the rest of the tribes are polygamous. So they will have multiple wives and many children, and that most of them are Christian. The Hadzabe are not.
So this is probably the least drama-filled tribe of all of them, right?
This one is this is a pastoral. They're all the rest we were with are polygamous, and this is one of them. The Hadzabe were the only ones.
What did you notice any discernible differences in the culture between the polygamous tribes and the monogamous tribes?
No, because even the ones that are monogamous, they had a wife, they still kind of live separate lives.
Yeah.
The women will eat over here, the men will eat over here. It's very separate.
Why?
But they just
why did you ask them why?
It's just how they feel with it. And they're very, oh my goodness, you cannot talk about specific things. You do not show romance at all in front of anyone. You do not hang at a hand. It's very, if there's a relationship between a man and a woman, it is private. It is so private. It is so private. I mean, it's really very biblically based in many ways. And other than the Hadzabe, and you'll hear this on all the videos. I always talk about religion in them because it's important. I want to know what they feel. And the Hadzabe were very interested to know what I felt because they believe that once you die, that's it. No. And when I told them what I believe, you could see that they were thinking. But I didn't want to change them. I don't want to change anyone. I'm not there to change anyone. I'm there to learn from them.
Yeah.
I just was hoping to educate them don't gravitate towards, the processed food. Eat your ancestral food. You're so healthy. But over here, you'll see that they've got, this tribe is using a lot of ugali. He's also got a bowl of fresh milk. So they'll take a bite and then they'll drink. They'll take a bite of the ugali and then they'll drink. So they also, if you look down here,
so they're mixing a lot of saturated fat to go with the carbohydrates. So that's going to be good.
Food. It's just food because again, they're minimal land now, and come the dry season when they have to go to take their livestock to find greener places, there's no place to take them because it's all gone.
I think Ray Pete said if you're going to eat carbs, you eat fat first, and then you eat the carb with it. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and so it's to watch them, but I will tell you in a minute. They have 2 meals a day. This is not an eat all day long. And this is, I think, another reason. I think we consume too much food and we're eating too much. They eat all the tribes. It's just like a morning and a night. There's no snacking unless you find a berry or something as you're walking. You might munch on that, but it's not.
They consume up to 1 liter of butter per day. You say
per day.
How do they
per
do
person.
that?
Theirs is more of a liquidy kind.
Okay.
And they put it in.
How do they keep it liquidy?
This is a calabash.
Okay.
So this is grown by the Sanjo tribe, which is the last tribe I lived with. And it's a gourd. They grow them. And then the tribes will hollow them out. And then there's a top. And this is, of course, the beautiful leather that they make. And they put beads on it. It's very important to them. This is the top. And so they'll either shake, they'll put things in this, or they have a thing that they'll put it in and they'll swing it back and forth.
Yeah.
and they swing it back and forth and back and forth, and it's just still in a liquid state. And then they drink it. It's very, that's how theirs looks. And they feel it is a key to health is to have the butter and to have the Maasai especially, they call it clot milk or soured milk. And they think very healing. They think it's extremely healing to
That's
the
like
rock.
kefir or kefir.
No, not at all, because kefir has the grains. It has
Okay.
the kefir grains, not at all. This is just, and I've done it. I've tried it. Oh, it was powerful. Because I do raw sheep milk. So I put it like they do. I put it in my glass and I covered it and I put it in a cupboard for 7 days. And then when I took it out, when I can see why they call it clot milk, it was kind of chunky and kind of cottage cheesy kind of looking. And the smell was wow. It was very tangy. Huh. I will do that a couple times a month just because they feel it's very healing. I want to see if it's going to do anything for me, but they swear by it. The Maasai believe it is one of the most healing things is this soured milk.
All of the tribes did that, or just
They didn't talk as much about the soured milk as the Maasai did. These guys were more butter. They thought butter, and people give that to the young children growing up, that they feel that this is a really important thing. You'll see these on all my live chats. We talk about all of this on the live chats. It's so powerful. And that's why I did the live chats. I mean, I've had some people say these should have been
chats. That's where you're live streaming with the people.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And people were actually asking my followers.
And that's on your Facebook or Instagram?
It's Instagram. It's on Facebook, but you have to have an Instagram to be able to see it.
Gotcha.
And so anyway, so it was just so important because this is where you can hear with your own, you see and hear for yourself the truth. I'm not changing anything. And I've had people say to me, you shouldn't be showing these things. Some of this is just, it's just too much. If you're showing a Maasai blowing his nose the old farmer way, that's just repulsive. I found it charming. They don't have Kleenex. Yeah. What else would they do? We're humans, do the wild animals? I mean, what are they going to, this is what we do. This is how we lived in the day when we don't have Kleenex or toilet paper. You use what's out there. And I wanted to show you, this is what being a human is. There's nothing gross about this. There's nothing gross. I was just in awe of them, in awe.
How many carbohydrates and calories do the Datoga people probably eat? Do you think? Did you get it?
I'll get to that. I've got a slide that kind of shows a little bit of what some of the. I've got more slides I'm creating, but the one I've got is extremely powerful. This is Geesh right here. And at first he was very apprehensive of us, but then we became very close friends, very, very close, because he understood I was not there to try to, bring them and just, what's the word I'm looking for? Expose them to the world and try to make money off of them. I was there to learn. Yeah. They saw my emotion. They saw how much I loved them, and I would do anything for them. Here they are with my hair. I had just gotten there. Like, look at it. So Mateo goes, I got to get pictures of this. This is too funny, And so yeah, it was something. It was just, I love them. But this is during one of our live chats. I snapped this right before one of our live chats. Here we are now. Now we're going to go to the Iraq tribe. These are agro-pastoralists. So these are ones they don't just have the flock, their livestock. They also grow crops, and they grow the corn, which is a lot of where I think a lot of them are getting their ugali from, is from this kind. So I asked the tribe, and of course this I will say, of all the tribes, although the Maasai was very clean too, after coming from the Datoga tribe that we were just with, there were flies just everywhere. This was pristine. There were hardly no flies. And so I said to my boys, I said, look how clean it is here. I said, are they sweeping? I mean, there was no cow, no sheep, no dung, nothing anywhere. It was just so clean. And you'll see what they do. This was unbelievable. The pride that they take, the unbelievable pride. So this is the family here. Wait, hold on here. And this is where we stayed. This is our setup here. And you can see that the animals are right there. Many of the young animals will live right in the huts with them. A lot of the tribes, you'll have you've got some baby goats and some baby, sheep. They'll be right in. The chickens are all walking around. They're all live right inside with the family. Yeah. So you don't think about cleanliness. But again, this is why I think that part of their health, because they're just not clean. They're not so pristine like we all think we have to be. We are not designed to be perfectly clean. It's so important to think about this, guys. It's really important. Here we have, this is where they're cooking their ugali. But look how quaint it is. This is inside. There's open holes. Anything can crawl in here. Anything. You know, any of my fears can be inside these things at any time. And then this is the Makande. This is the kidney beans and the corn. Now, let me go back to that the Toga tribe we were just with. Interestingly, I'm trying to talk fast here because I know we don't have a lot of time. The Datoga tribe, I noticed about 3 to 4 of the people in this tribe had eye problems. I don't know if it was glaucoma, but there was, you know, extreme, something big going on in their eyes.
Yeah.
And I asked them, and what you could hear me asking in one of the lives, I said, you know, what's happening? What's happening here now that you've added in ugali and different things? And the medicine woman, the witch doctor, it's a woman. She was over 100, and she was a little large. She was probably one of the largest ones there. And she was the one that had, you can see in the video, there's something going on with her eyes. And she would not really talk much, but her son, like he's like in his 80s, was sitting next to her. And he was very verbal. And you could hear his anger. And we had a whole bunch of teenagers sitting there listening. And I've told them over and over, we've got to stop. We've got to go back to just blood, milk, and meat. Since we've added in, and Gish says in the video, he says, it's been 24 years. We started putting in ugali. They knew exactly to the day. It's been 24 years. We added it 24 years ago. And the older man said, since we added that in, our health is failing. And then I said, what do you think about beans? Because I knew the other Datoga tribe was eating a lot of beans. And they said, oh no, it will make you go blind and it will kill you.
That's the Iraq tribe saying that?
Oh, this is the Datoga, the second Datoga.
Okay.
First Datoga was living mostly on beans and corn and grains.
Yeah.
But the second one was just saying, do not go near beans. They will kill you and make you blind. So I'm wondering, over the years, once they added beans in, did they start noticing eye problems? I don't know. I'm only speculating because this is what they told me.
Yeah.
They totally are afraid of beans. And yet the other Datoga tribe, they live off of them.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see the different tribes.
Is there a parasite or something maybe that could have been another factor?
I don't know, but their thing is the beans. They think it's the beans that causes the eye problems. And their wisdom is really amazing. I think it's through trial and error. They know that I know we never had eye problems until this happened. They keep track of everything.
Really? How do they keep track of it?
It's just wisdom. They know there's nothing written down because their language, they have written word.
Yeah.
And they remember everything.
Oral tradition. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they tell you any myths? Did they tell you any of their stories of their ancestors or the beginning of creation or anything?
I've written some of this down on my page. You can see when I write about the tribes, I will say this is why the Maasai believe that they are the chosen ones to be the pastoralists, that the cows are just for them. There's all of these things I will share. They're on my page. You will see them, and they're fascinating. They're fascinating. Again, their diet, they consume diet, usually ugali and makande. They will do boiled milk now. They would not do it raw because the gut, and they told me, he said that the government has scared them. He said that they're going to get sick I said, but were you guys getting sick before? And they said, no. But they're also now doing exactly what the government, they're going and getting vaccinations. They're going and doing all these things. This tribe is, and you can see they're much more, they're very much more contemporary, but they're trying. And I said, what about your corn that you grow? Have they told you they want you to do the GMO? And they said, they keep telling us we should change to their corn because we'll get a bigger yield and, more crops. I said, don't do it. I said, it's impregnated with chemical. I said, do not continue your heirloom corn, please. And so he promised me he would. He promised me that he would not change. But the government is trying to infiltrate hugely there. Wow. Look at this landscape. Isn't this gorgeous? Yeah. Again, notice they're not face to face with the screen all day. It's constantly looking out. We are designed to look at distances. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I think we have terrible eye conditions. We are not looking at something all the time. They are out. I was just loving every moment of this. This is what you'll see in all the tribes. They will use branches and things as their gates and fences to protect at nighttime their livestock, because you've got hyenas everywhere. And we did have a terrible experience with a wild hyena in the middle of the night, which you'll see later on. It was quite scary, but so it was beautiful. Here they are bringing their herds in at nighttime, and they're going to go into like a corral where they're protected from as much as they can, because the hyenas still will get them. They still will get them. And here we are. You can see his children. He has 8 children. And she's carrying the sticks to bring in for the firewood. This is Happiness. She's a 13-year-old, and she was just adorable. She and I became just so close. And here she is. She's gone out and she's picked some branches with leaves on it, and she's sweeping the yard. And I have a video of that will be posted as well. I was just The children are because they are not inundated and taxed with their fragile minds, with what they're seeing, what they shouldn't be seeing on these iPads and their cell phones and all of these things. They're being raised by apps, not by humans.
Yeah.
And this is a problem in our world. And I write about this often as well. These children are taught from the moment that they're born, this is what a man is, this is what a woman is. And they're so honorable. When the Maasai, whenever a child would enter wherever an adult is, they bow their head and the adult will tap their head. It's showing respect and honor. You will never see a child talking back. You will never see disrespect ever. I did not see one angry person the entire time I was there. It was total peace. And I think, again, this is another piece. There's no jealousy, there's no bitterness, there's no anger, there's no contempt. There's not competition. Again, they're involved in social media. They're seeing all of this. There's no suicide. There's no depression. It's just remarkable. It is
They get on social media, you said?
They don't. That's the point. They don't have this. And I think that's part of what's becoming so toxic in our world.
Yeah.
The more that our children are being raised by these apps. Here, look at this. This is your babysitter. No, they need human contact. They need love. Love is key. And the love that is displayed, especially in this tribe, I saw extreme love with this tribe. Mar, he was the father. We became very, very close. I just love him. How he was raising his children, it was just profound. The Maasai, it was just to see the love. You don't think of this when you think of the Maasai, they're just these, but we'll talk when we get there. I'm just trying to go as fast as I can. And again, here they are. We had some great, live Instagram chats with them. They're just beautiful, beautiful. They did have one man, he was 62 years old, he was my age without any teeth. And I knew he was very embarrassed about that. And I asked him, I said, but that's okay. I said, what happened? And he, in his language, telling Mateo, he said, when I was in my 40s, I got periodontal disease. But interestingly, why? This tribe does eat a lot more grains. I don't think they don't eat as much meat. And is that, I don't know. I'm just speculating, but you would not see that in the heavy meat eating tribes, especially the Maasai. You will not see that. It does not happen.
So is it the volume of meat, or is it the lack of grains and
I'm thinking because they really don't, like in the Hadzabe, there's not a volume of meat. There's not.
So
in
it's the lack of grains.
In the Maasai, there was not a volume of meat. They do not eat now, in this current day, they do not eat a lot of meat unless you're a warrior. If you're a warrior, you eat a lot of meat because that's what your diet is for 15 years, because they believe it's the meat and the blood that makes a man mentally and physically strong. And he has to be both. He cannot be soft in any possible way. He cannot have anything to do with religion because they believe religion will make you soft. So for those 15 years, he cannot. We went to a Maasai wedding, and you'll see that. The warriors were there. It was beautiful. I mean, I've heard about them.
Yeah.
They could not go near the ceremony. They had to go to a whole different section into where the boma is.
Yeah, that's interesting.
They could not be a part of it because that softens them. They have to be hard, and they have to be with a man, and this is what it is. And they are. They're very, I mean, I interacted with some of them, and I've got videos coming up with that where you'll see me. And they are very, but you can see why. They have to be protective. There's wild animals they have to protect, and that's what they're designed to be. They are not wimps. And when I shared with them about what we have in our community, in our culture, that men are kind of confused at what their role is, and women are getting confused. And any woman who's a feminist out here that's hearing me, I don't care. I'm a biblical woman, and I believe part of our downfall in this world is that we've forgotten what we were created for. And I believe one of our greatest missions for me is to be a mother and to be a wife. I didn't have the honor of having a husband that cared enough. He walked out on us when my little girls. And so I've been raising them alone. But I can imagine what it's like when I see someone who has a biblical relationship with a man, that this is what a man is. He's there to protect me and my children and to provide for us. And I'm there to make a beautiful, loving home where there's not chaos. It's not insanity. It's just the most beautiful, peaceful home.
Right.
And my children are just so loved, and they see the love between a husband and a wife. We're missing that because children, and I had to do both. I had to be a mother, I had to be a father, and I had to work full time, plus take care of my home, plus do all the work, plus do everything, and I still make time every day to rock my babies and to be with them 24/7 as
Yeah.
much as I could. They went to the same school that I taught at, so I could see them during the
Yeah.
day, and it was just, we have to get back to what God created. And these tribes are living, to me, even though some of them are polygamous, but to see the love and the women.
Now, the Iraq, were they polygamous here?
I don't think so. No, because Mar was just, this was his family. This is where he lives.
Was he Christian, you said?
He
Or
was, yeah, most of them are Christian.
yeah.
The only one that was not was the Hadzabi.
Did he drink blood? The Iraq?
This group, they're not really, that blood is not important to them. They're mostly, again, they're not doing a lot of meat. They're
Who?
mostly
All of them?
the Iraq, this group. But it's not, I can't say it's all, because every group, and these guys don't live like in like what you see like with the Maasai and the Datoga kind of had what the Maasai do, but their homes are further apart. Same with this, the Iraq, their homes, their neighbors are quite a bit farther away, but they all came at nighttime to join in on the live Instagram. I was so appreciative to them.
Okay.
Learned so much from them, so much. Again, my videos, and I go and I watch them over and over, and I will sit here and cry because we became so close. Now we're getting ready to go to the Maasai, and this is where we're getting ready to leave. And this is the famous Lake Natron, and it is one of the most, what's the word I can say? It is so corrosive. It's got a 10.5 pH, and you think most waters are like a 7, and so this is where the flamingos, 75% of the flamingos, the lesser flamingos are called lesser flamingos. This is where they breed. 75% in the world go here to breed because they have adapted to be able to, their bodies to be able to handle not being burned. If a human were to touch this water, your skin would burn. If an animal were to go into this, so they're safe. Their predators are not going to go on this water. But somehow they've learned to adapt. It's remarkable. There was thousands and
So
thousands.
humans can't go in there?
No, it's so corrosive. But the
Wow.
salt, it's loaded with salt. So people will come and try to get the salt from here.
Yeah.
And you'll see bags of it just everywhere on the sides of the road. It was just, again, just amazing to see this. Just
Wow.
amazing. So here we are going to the Maasai. We did 2 tribes. The first tribe we spent the most time we were with was with Mateo's family. This is the Letyat family. So these are the warriors, or the Murans. Notice how I'm spelling it, Murrans instead of morons. Muran warriors. And this is between the ages of 15 to 30. They are in this stage of being trained to be powerful men.
Those are all men?
These are only men. This is only men.
Yeah.
And they are very powerful. And this is the only time that they can actually grow their hair.
Yeah.
Some of them do, some of them don't. If you're going to go to school, you cannot have long hair. So I'm surmising that the ones that you, like if you go on my channel, you'll see them. The ones who have the short hair, they're probably going to school because they probably want to do more. Those who have the long hair, probably not, because the schools will not allow you to come. And I'm taught, and of course, the chief of all the Maasai is very close friends with me. And I would love to be able to open schools. The children are beaten when they go to school. They're flogged when they go to school. And when they were telling me what it was like to go to school, I was literally crying because it's so wrong. And they don't want to go because they don't want to be beaten. Who does? But this is how they keep rule that this, you're going to, this is, you don't look at me wrong. And so I just said to the chief, what I would love to be able to build little 1-room schools in each of the community areas so that they could be taught and be able to come to school. These warriors are brilliant, but a lot of them will not go because they can't, they want to have their traditions. And he was like, you really think? And so, if I could have people help me to be able to do these amazing things for the tribes, it would just, and I know we've got so much here in our country to worry about, but I don't know. I just love these people. This is their church, David. This is where they go outside, and every Sunday they have a church. But I was going to be leaving before church, so they had a church service for me before I left them. And I just sobbed through the whole thing. They've got their Bibles that have been translated in the Ma language, the Maasai language. And they were singing hymns and they were just reading from scripture. It was just so beautiful. And I said, well, what if it rains? They said, then we can't have church. And I was like, what I wouldn't give to be able to build like a pavilion for you, to be able to come out here and have church, no matter what the weather is. It was just so beautiful. So this is where this is where we spent our time. Notice this one, we have 3 tents rather than 2, because we were going to be doing a lot of slaughtering. And this was going to be our supply camp where we could store some of the raw meat in for the next day, and not thinking it'd be a problem. And so this is my tent. This is the storage tent, the supply tent, and this is where the boys were going to sleep. Because my tent is like an organic tent, I didn't want to have all these chemicals on mine that was for keeping, the water out and so forth. Meneno, who was my cook, because I have so many digestive problems, he watched over me like there was no tomorrow, and he was always putting things over to protect my tent in case the torrential rains would come in. And so here they're all coming over to help while we were setting up our area. It was just so beautiful. This is their boma. Now, when I say a boma, okay, it's going to be the region where their homes are, okay? And then all their cattle will be around. And this is the backside of this home here. This is Mateo's brother and his wife and children. This is where they stay. And they have a big fence. Mateo built this fence with his brother because they share this. And this is where the goats and the sheep will stay. And over here, there's another like this compound. Over here is where the cattle will stay. And then there's a place where the baby calves will stay. The young goats and the sheep, the babies, they may be in the home and with the chickens. They do not eat eggs. They do not, but they sell the eggs to help raise money, to help buy their beads, to help buy their for their shukas, and to also help buy their livestock. So they have to raise money somehow, because so much of their cattle is either dying or being killed by the wild animals. And so they have to have money from this is what they do. Here we are, and of course they all knew I've always been, I'm a wannabe Maasai since I was a little girl, and they were so ready for me. This is his mom right here, Mateo's mom. I just love them so, and they had all these things ready. They had made me all this jewelry. Look how this is, I've got that right here. They made this for my cell phone, and so I would wear it at my neck, and it was just, and they just had all this jewelry that they made for me, and these earrings, and the belt, look at the belt that they made over here. I couldn't believe it. I was a Maasai, and they're saying, we want to adopt you. We want you to become part of our tribe. So I may be going back to get adopted into the Maasai tribe.
Wow.
So here's my first slaughter camp. So, and women are not allowed. Women are not allowed. But because I'm not part of the tribe right now, they allowed me to come and see. And so this is all live.
Once you become a part of the tribe, though, you can't go anywhere, right?
But maybe they'll, because I'm not true. I wasn't born. Maybe they'll still allow me, because we had so much fun. They were so amazing. And again, live videos from here, live chats, and just regular videos
So
as
why
well.
don't they let the women in? Usually?
It's just part of their culture. It's the men. It's very separate lives. Very, very separate. Very, very, very much separate. And so here we are. They've always got machetes. The men. And I started realizing I wish I could carry a machete, because boy, these things come in handy. We were out in the bush and they're cutting things down, in case an animal comes, you're ready to go. They've got their spears. You just don't know, and it was just profound, just so amazing, David, to see how they slaughtered the animal, what they do with all the parts. You even see here,
What is the animal they got?
This one was, remember, it's going to be always their livestock. Usually it was either a goat or a sheep we were having. The only time they will kill a cow is for a ceremony, whether it's a wedding or a circumcision, some kind of something big, they will do a cow then, but not every day, because the cows are so prized for their milk.
Wait, they have a livestock? I thought these were the hunter-gatherers. I'm confused.
No, this is Maasai. The Maasai are pastoralists.
Okay.
The only hunter and gatherers was our first tribe. All the rest,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Hadzabe are the first tribe, are the last of the hunters and gatherers. The rest of them are pastoralists.
Okay.
So this is going to be, again, from their stock, their livestock, and their neighbors that all live they're very close to each other. They will kind of take turns, because otherwise, if they're killing every day, then they will have no livestock left. It's not practical.
Yeah.
And so most of their diet is milk.
Yeah.
It's mostly a liquid diet. And so here you can see during the slaughter camp, there's body parts and things hanging in the trees. I was like, oh, what do we have going on here? And they're like, this is how we dry things, not for very long, but especially the fat. This is like the suet and so forth around the kidney. They dry it because it cooks better, they said, in just for a couple minutes. This is the head of the sheep right here, and this is a leg. Yeah. So again, but the Morans, they are the ones that will be eating and consuming the meat most of the time. And it's an enormous amount, enormous amount. Here we are, they're showing how they're skewering the leg, okay? And they're gonna slow cook it like we did in the Hadzabe, not near big flames. It's just the coals, and they cook them. And this is what they're doing there. This is the famous soup. And this is something I'm doing major research on, because I think this is a key, and this is something I hope everyone's going to really watch me very carefully on. because it's vital. And they talked to me and because I've been studying this for so many years. I said, please tell me about this soup. Notice the bark and the branches over here. What I'm finding is that there's special, I'm going to call them nutrients or chemicals that they believe, and I believe too in my research, I'm finding this, that when they mix it into their soup that they're making, and in the soup, it's going to have like the heart, it's going to have the stomach, the intestines, it's going to have chest and all these different things in it, and it's boiling. They only cook it for about an hour. All this soup broth and all this broth stuff, that bone broth, everyone says we have to cook for 24 hours. They said absolutely not. Too much. They said about an hour, no more than an hour and a half. This is cooked for. So it's got all this stuff in it, and they're cooking all the fats, and they just believe fats are very important. But then, while that's cooking, they've got this bark, and so it's special bark, acacia, that I will be writing about, and they cook that for about an hour. They don't eat the bark, but the nutrients that have been extrapolated into the broth is then poured into this soup that they've made, and it has to be stirred. They have a special stirring stick, and I've got it on video where they're turning it and turning it and turning it for half an hour. It's got to be done for half an hour. No more, no less. And the reason why is because they believe that it helps speed up their digestion. And according to my research, it also is, there's some really good evidence that it is helping their bodies to deal with the high saturated fat. And the more and more I delve into this, the more and more I'm thinking, oh, this is powerful. So this is there's three things about the Maasai diet that I want everyone to really start to think about. Could this broth from this bark be a key to how their bodies adjust to this high saturated fat diet that we aren't getting? That's one. Two, now this is from the elders. These are all the things I've been talking so hours and hours and hours with these guys. Their movement. And in research, I verified this in research. They have had autopsies done with the Maasai because they do have plaque buildup. Same amount that we see in our culture. However, their arteries are wider. And research is proving and saying, is it because they move so much, 12 to 15 miles a day, that is allowing their arteries to handle what we can't, or we haven't been in the past? That's the second piece. The third piece, in my research, there is some evidence that they have a genetic component that they have developed over the generations of eating this way that allows their body to also handle this kind of a diet. So there's three things I'm going to be coming out with some really good research on that I want us to watch for. But the Maasai, the elders told me that they feel the most important thing is it's their movement.
Yeah.
And these were the 100-year-olds. And they said, if they don't move, they said, when we get up in the morning, we're a little stiff. We're going to be honest. We are stiff. But they said, once we start walking, we are back to normal. And they said, we cannot imagine not walking 12, 15 miles
What are
a
they
day.
walking? To hunt or what?
They're still tending to their flock.
Okay.
They still have their livestock. They're still shepherds. They still are working. They do not believe in retirement. Once you retire, you're done.
Yeah.
Got to keep moving. You got to keep living. And also, I believe their community, the love. Every morning, I'm zipping out of my tent like 5 o'clock in the morning. The sun is just starting to come. The most beautiful sunrise you're seeing. And all of the men are coming over to where we are to meet us. And this is what they do. Even if I wasn't there, this is what they do. And the women do the same thing in their region, but I was with the men, so I'm always dealing with the men, And I loved it to watch them. The love and camaraderie. They were, how was your night? How are you today? And they don't believe anyone should ever be alone. There is no such thing as homeless. They will take in whoever that comes by, and you will not be left. You will not be forsaken. And I was just in awe. I'm like, my gosh, I never see my neighbors. Never. I'm usually alone. I'm just here researching. I'm alone. My daughters will come and see me sometimes, but they've got their lives, but not them. You will never
Yeah.
eat alone. You are never alone. This community and I've never felt so loved in my life. I was never alone. Yes, when I was in my tent, I was, but my boys were right next to me. They were always right there. I mean, I could hear them, and they knew if I had needed them, they were right there for me. But to see how they love, and at nighttime, they come back with their cattle, and they all come back together again. How was your day? Or they all cook together in their slaughter camp. Or they'll have their chai tea together. You'll see this on my live Instagrams. You'll see us in the morning having
Yeah.
these beautiful cups of chai tea. Here it is.
Yeah.
So this is what they do. They start their day every day with at least a liter of chai tea. The chai tea is part milk with some water and the bark. And they boil it, and they will, if the honey is in season, they will add honey to it. If not, they will get cane sugar. And the cane sugar, again, is from the tribes that grow cane. And
So it's not processed. They're not buying
nothing.
it.
No, everything is what they can get.
Yeah.
Some of them have begun to add in ugali because in the summertime, last year, the government took a lot of Mateo's tribes grazing land away for the dry season, and they lost a lot of their cattle because there was no water. There was no place to graze them. There was no food. And so usually that's when they would do their blood and milk. They will combine because in the summertime, the cows can't get enough of green grass, and so they aren't producing the quantity of milk. And so they will mix. That's when they do in the jugular.
Yeah.
They will do the blood. Only reason why they're doing that is because it helps the milk to go further. It gives them nutrients. But now they can't hardly even do that because their cattle, they're dying. And so now they're incorporating some of the ugali. And they also said the same thing, that they are noticing those who are eating the ugali, they can't handle it. Now, here's my thing though. But there are cultures who do very well with ugali, who do very well. In India, I mean, this has been something that is not new to other cultures. Is it because this is something that they're not used to? Their body has adapted.
Yeah.
It's not part, just like with me, I'm celiac. I cannot eat grains. It will kill me. And so we have to think about, can some people do really well with grains? And of course, are they heirloom grains? I think that's a key. And can some people do better without?
Right.
Some people can do better with plants. Some people do better with, look in the Pacific Islands, 90% of the diet of the Dani tribe was sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
And then we got people all saying, oh, no oxalates, no, that's going to kill you. They're doing really well living on mostly oxalates. Again, do they have the formigin, what's it called, formigin? There's a specific bacteria that actually will eat that.
Yeah.
And do they have more of that? There's so much to talk about, so much to think about. But we have to listen to our bodies. Our bodies will tell us. And then, of course, they will drink 6 to 4 liters of raw milk a day. They will consume meat 2 to 3 times per week, along with the healing soup. The soup is so important.
How much are they eating in those 2 to 3 times of meat?
I was there, and you're splitting it up with everybody. I was hungry, so that's why.
So is it an 8 ounce or a pound of meat each?
I was not, but again, they were going through it much faster than I was. Again, you're splitting with so many people. I don't know how it could be. With a lamb or a goat, they're small. You got a number of people to feed. And those of us who are saying that they eat organs every day, absolutely not. And they split them. If it's a goat, it goes to a certain group of people. If it's they're not. And if you get a piece, and I was getting a piece, they were like this big. And it wasn't every day. We've got to think, guys. Think ancestrally. It was not eaten every day. Yeah. And you're not eating gobs of it. It's not natural. It's not natural. So again, we need to rethink. And so for me, because it would take me so long
but to be fair, are they, you're seeing them now with their pressure of the government consolidating their land, so therefore they don't have as much. In more plenteous times, would they be eating?
And we talked about this, and I asked them, I said, back in the day, before, when you were living totally traditionally, what was it? And they said the women were not heavy meat eaters. They will eat meat, but they were more milk. Milk has always been a big thing.
This is a win for on that level for some of the advice that people like Dr. Ray Peat have suggested, drinking milk as a part of your diet. So I mean,
I'm just incorporating it now to see how my body's going to do with it. And so far, so good. I'm not having migraines. I'm not having rashes, acne. It's
raw sheep milk you're drinking.
Raw sheep. Rushy, and it's raised ancestrally. It's not
How much cane sugar they put in it? Was it super sweet or not
Uh,
sweet?
for me, it's sweet because I don't like sweets, and so
Right.
it did taste like sweet to me. But I looked, and she was just, and it was huge vat she was making
Are
because
they conservative on the sugar, or are they heavy on it when they put it in?
I thought it was very, it's not something they look for because they don't eat a lot of sweets. Even their fruit is not sweet. It's very bitter and tart. So it was just, just poured a little bit in. It was not like it was the main thing. I think because the bark is a little on the bitter side, I think it just kind of helps to cut that edge. But I thought I really thought it was delicious. And anything with that bark in it,
What is the type of bark that makes the chai taste or whatever?
I will tell you. I'm going to be writing an article about what it is. I'm going to tell you all the breakdown of all the nutrients and what
I don't know anything about chai tea. Is chai tea? Where did that name come from? Like,
I don't know. And again, the other Maasai tribe that we went to, they were using regular tea in it.
Okay.
With the bark. This tribe is very traditional. The first tribe we lived with, which is Mateo's tribe, they do not add tea to it, which I was so happy to because I do not drink that because a lot of them are very.
What is the definition of chai tea? I'm just asking a very
To them, they didn't say. They just said it's just for them. Their chai.
I'm asking even more simple question. What is chai tea?
Their chai tea, which I said, you can see here.
Yeah.
It's the cow's milk. It's the water.
I'm saying, what does that term come from? Chai? Is that?
I don't even know. I haven't even investigated.
That's their word. They came up with.
Well, that's their English word.
Okay.
Okay. It's probably something different, but it's just this is that they're known for this chai tea.
Okay.
I mean, to me, it almost looks like it's a Japanese name. It almost looks like
that's what I'm saying. Is this like a world?
So again, I will.
This is where the world of chai tea came from. This tribe.
Yeah. I don't know. And so I will investigate that. Okay. You should see, I've got so many things I'm looking at right now. Yeah. It's unbelievable. But when I first saw it, I thought, I wonder if that's Oriental. Is it from the Asian?
Yeah.
I don't know. I will let you know.
I thought it was like an Indian tea or something.
And so again, but back in the day, when they had more cattle that weren't dying, they were consuming more meat. They absolutely were. And I know that when they're in the Moran stage, they can eat up like 3-4 kilograms, pounds and pounds of meat a day, because that's what but that's not every day. That is not every day. That's only when they go to the slaughtering camp, the big slaughtering camp, which is like a 3 to 4 week period where they leave the tribe and they go out and they just become one with this animal. And they bring like 4 or 5 cattle with them. And that's what they're going to be slaughtering and killing and living off of. And I'm hoping this summer to go to that. And I'm hoping to raise enough money to help me to be able to have an actual lab. It's a mobile lab that I want to be able to take their blood work and assess what is happening to their blood as they're consuming this. I want to assess, I want to test.
Consuming what? The meat?
The massive amounts of meat and fat.
Why do they do this? Is this a ritual or this is like...
It's part of their culture. This is where the men, they believe, and they do this every once in a while throughout the year, that it's not every day, remember, it's not every month, it's every once in a while, because they're too busy tending to their flock. They can't just leave. And so they feel, again, the more meat and the more blood that you consume, the stronger and mentally you are and the stronger physically you are. And that's what the runs are about.
Some people, like the Christian biblical tradition talks about not drinking blood. How does that interact with their view? Do they talk about that?
I think because about 90 to 95% of them have become Christians. I think that there's different interpretations of the Bible.
Right.
And when Jesus says, this is my body, this is my blood, I think that you can interpret things. I think that they're also, when you think of when they give an animal for worship and so forth, and the slaughtering and the blood that they were using, I think that there's different ways of interpreting the use of blood.
Yeah.
But again, in the moron stage, when they're drinking it, but we had blood. I was drinking blood.
And what is the point of drinking blood for them? Is it a medicine or is it a food?
It's healing, extremely healing. They feel the power that it has. It's a nutrient dense, of course, the iron that's in it. Very salty. They do not salt. Most of these tribes do not use spices. And anyone who's out there preaching that we need salt, 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 and we need to be feeding our animals all of these grains, all this stuff, not one animal is fed anything other than what they're finding out on pasture. There is not a salt lick. They are not given grains. They are not given any kind of supplements, nothing. And we talked a great deal about this because I want to know.
Yeah.
And they said, absolutely not. The only thing that they will give the chickens is they will leave out aloe vera plant. they'll put that in some water and so forth, and they feel that that helps them with any digestive issues. But their chickens, all of their stock,
And they don't-
everything was pristine in their health.
And they don't
Pristine.
grow corn or anything, any vegetables or fruit.
Not these. Some of them are starting to grow corn because of the ugali. Some of them are, but many of them are trying so hard to stay true to their diet. But they have said that they're noticing a difference once they start decreasing their normal diet. Once they yeah.
They're probably going to keep pushing that ugali because, like David Lynch says, America is almost possessed by a Mesoamerican corn demon. And the more we have our global influence, it seems like everybody's forced into more and more entrenchment into corn. So good Lord.
And of course the corn, I think if it was back to like what the traditional maize was, like the Native, I'm Native American, I'm part Native, and they had corn, beans, and squash, the three sisters, you know what I mean? It was part of their staple, but it wasn't what we have now. It's so tainted, like everything, all the grains. If you can go back to like the Icorn grain, in Jesus, the biblical time, I mean, there's just so much to this. There's so much to everything. Now, this is something I'm breaking down. I'm still working on this. I think I'm going to get, because their cows are different than ours. Their fat content and their lactose, I mean, there is much higher than what our standard cows are here. They're very nutrient dense, very nutrient dense. So this is what I wanted to just show you. When anyone says that the Maasai are low carb, we've been misled. They are far from it. They are not in ketosis. Can't be, because it's not under 50 grams, far over it. So the men normally will drink 6 liters of milk, and they have been drinking a lot of milk throughout. This is not.
And they're drinking the zebu milk?
Mostly Zebo. Sometimes they'll do the sheep. The chief and I, we both, with the sheep, it's on a video that we're talking, that we both love sheep. The sheep milk is just so decadent, so rich. So, oh my gosh. But most of the time, the Zebu is their prize. But Zebu is any cow, it's a variety that's got the hump. There's quite a few cows, like the Desi. I found this I searched that they do have the Zebu, the Desi Zebu cow. Now, this has a milk fat of 5.5. This is very important. And again, this is going to be a lot of my research coming out, and I'm hoping to have a lot of papers published. So bear with me. 5.5% milk. The normal cow that we have here is a 3.5% cow. Okay, so milk, fat milk. Here's this, that's here. So if fiddlesticks. So if a Maasai were to drink our cow milk, okay, and they're drinking, say 6 liters, here's the man's, here's the women, okay, they would get, for 6 liters, they would get a total of 3,843 calories. That's in the 3.5% fat. Protein, 194.7 grams. Net carbs, 343.3 grams. That's far from low carb. Fat, 194.7 grams. Here's the women over here. Again, the protein is always the same ratios. 20 protein, 35 carb, 45 fat. So that's their ratios. That's their breakdown. Their macros. Here's their calories for a woman. They're
drinking that a day right now, these guys.
Right now. But this is what they've always drank. They've always had a lot of milk. Milk, because they don't want to kill. That's why they are hunters. They don't want to kill. They feel that the great thing about having livestock is they can live mostly off of their milk and not kill them. It's really, I was like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. They don't want to kill them, and so they really prefer to really be drinking. And the milk, they're healthy as can be. Again, but look at the calorie intake. But
and that's assuming it's our type of milk, but they're
now let's go down to what is probably more closer. If
the
I were
Desi Zebu, that's in India, right?
This is, and that's where it came from. It originated.
And then somehow it got pastoralists moved it all the way over.
Yes, and so now, cool. But they've got their own. It's called the Maasai Zebu, and so if I go back this summer, which I'm praying, that we can. I'm gonna test their milk. I want to know exactly what is their milk fat. I think it can go up to 6 to 7.
How big are those cows? Are those mini Zebus or little?
No. These are average. They're very average, and you'll see pictures of the one. Here's one right here. Here's the cow right here.
What's that about? Is that like what would you say?
What do you mean?
How would you say, how big is it? Like a traditional?
She was like, to me, it looked very much like our size cows. Okay. Very much. And this is the one I bought. This is the one she's pregnant. And isn't she gorgeous? The red Zebu. And they call it the Maasai Zebu. So it's not the Desi. I don't believe it. Mateo's like, I don't think it's a Desi, but I'm not sure. So he's going to ask his veterinarian, but we're going to know for sure. I will get all this down for you guys. I will know. But let's just say it's around 5.5 to 6%. Look at the difference in the calories now here. So for the men, again, the protein is 23%, the carbs 27%. We've gone down quite a bit in carbs. Fat is 51, so fat went way up.
Yeah.
Okay. Same with the women, still same macro
Interesting, yeah.
breakdown. But look at the calorie intake. This is just this is not including the day that they're going to have meat and fat. But on the days that they have the meat and the fat, they will reduce the amount of milk that they're drinking.
Right.
It will go down. However,
wow, this is so cool. Yeah,
it's amazing. It's just so fascinating. Look at the carbs again. 299.8 grams. The women, 203 grams. They're not in ketosis.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lactose, a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
In milk.
Of saturated fat.
Yeah, and two. So, but look at this again, but look at the breakdown. 23, 27, 51.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I think if you're going to run on fat, if you're going to, that's your energy source, then you're going to have a lower level of carbs, but it's not extremely low.
Right.
You're still getting a good amount of carbs. Still getting a good amount of carbs.
Yeah,
that's not including that they've always used honey or sugar in their chai tea. That's not anything new. Okay.
And they're consuming that theoretically every day.
They have chai and sometimes at nighttime they'll have chai tea.
So
and fruit.
And they're not eating meat until the meat camp?
No, they'll slaughter. So usually the slaughtering, we did our slaughterings we did a couple times the week. It's like in the evening that they'll start. Well, they'll start at like mid-afternoon.
So these guys they're eating probably well over 5,000 calories a day.
But this is the key. Anyone who's saying eating the carnivore diet, you don't have to exercise. They were adamant. You must be moving all the time. And again, we go back to their autopsies.
Yeah.
Their arteries were far wider than ours. And there was blockage. But because it was so wide, it was clean.
But let's be clear, they're not doing extreme cardio running, right? They're walking.
And they don't believe in that. They don't believe. I mean, the Hadzabi, when I was with them, there were times that I would do some running and jumping because we had all of a sudden they think they hear something and they see something. But it's just like the sprinting. There's a little sprinting here and there, which I love. I mean, I sprint all the time. But the Maasai, they do the jumping. They'll do the further dancing and stuff. But they walk. Yeah. They are very graceful. They are just so walking. And they feel that's. And again, think about it. If you're walking 12, 15 miles every day for 100 years. Do they have hip replacements?
Yeah.
I think if we are, and we talked about this when they were looking at my body structure and how I'm built, they're thinking, what's the damage going to be if you're doing that? Yeah. It's not natural. They don't think that's natural. Yeah. But they said walking, we are made to walk, and we are. And I think that's the key we have to be thinking about. Yeah. It's not preaching, doing all this, let's look like, this and that. Right. I think it's not human.
I got to tell you, though, this is so cool because like one of the last times I interviewed Dr. Ray Pete, or we interviewed him a few times before he passed away. He was saying that in the 1950s, he worked for the Department of Forestry. He didn't do extreme exercises. He said we did a lot of walking because we were planting trees. And he said we ate 5,000 calories a day. And I remember Brad Marshall and I were like, are you kidding me? And he was like, yeah, we were so lean. We ate whatever we wanted. This is the 1950s, 5,000 calories a day.
That's it.
And, it's crazy because that's about the breakdown of probably what that would look like. Because he was very big on milk too. So maybe this is a score for Ray Pete here, at least.
And I'm saying, I just think that we need to kind of think about, we eat from the earth. We eat what God's provided. God created. Yeah. And I know people are saying, well, should we be drinking from another mammal? Should we be drinking their milk? Yeah. And this is something I'm still trying to grasp with because, I feel like, why do we stop producing lactase after we are weaned from our moms, and so are we supposed to? And there's no other mammal that will drink from, and if you, what about cats and dogs? That's because we give it to them.
But I'm not a total.
There are birds. There are birds that will actually go in, but they're not mammals. There are birds that will actually go and will actually drink the milk as well.
And ants milk the little aphids and stuff for their little crystals?
Yeah, but again, I'm talking mammals and things. Yeah. They're not just out there saying, I want to go drink another. They don't think about it. They're just thinking about, either they're a plant eater or like my raccoons, my skunks, my fox, they weren't looking for milk of any kind. Once they're weaned, once we wean them off of we gave them goat milk.
Yeah, but I don't go, I'm not a total hedonist about.
Like, oh no, and I'm the same way. This is not about eating. This is not to do that. I'm just trying to wrap myself around the fact is would the Hadzabi, they're hunters and gatherers.
Right.
They do not. Dairy has only become a part of them because they're friending pastoralists now.
Right. Right.
They're not out looking for an animal to milk. They're not looking for a deer to get the milk from.
How
They're
do
looking
their teeth and health compared to the Maasai?
I mean, if you look at my videos and so forth, you'll see very, very close, very similar. And on one of my live chats, they actually were showing how they do the same thing with their teeth with the stick. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, they have beautiful teeth. They do. And again, here's the women. Look at what they do, guys. Again, because of their calorie intake, we don't just sit home, or we're gonna have some problems. Look at this. Every day they go out and they're chopping wood, and they chop like I've never seen before. And I've been chopping wood my whole life, but I still can never get the axe to go right where they were. Oh my gosh, I was in awe. Now, I broke my arm at the start of this trip.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't tell anyone because I knew if I told, they would probably send me home. So I thought, I'm just going to deal with the pain and God will heal whatever I have to do. When I was here, I wanted to do what they were doing. So I was trying to, and this is all on live Instagram, and I was working through it. So I was trying to chop. I was trying to lift. They're carrying at least 150 pounds off of their head on their neck. And they've got like a belt that they've made out of the leather from the hides of the animals put over their heads, and then it hangs off of them. These girls are so strong. They aren't muscular, but they could kill down anyone who's a big bodybuilder. I could not believe what they were lifting. I was just, you got to be kidding me. So there's videos you can see of this happening as well. They also wash and do the laundry. So they've gone out, they've got to cut all this. This took hours to do.
Yeah.
Then once they do that, they've got to go out and get water.
Wow.
And water, and this is where they kind of dig right now, because this is available right now. But in the dry season, this goes away, and then they have to walk far. This is about 1.5 miles, 2 miles away from where we were. But it was so heavy on our heads, and it was it was something to see. Then of course they're milking, and every morning, every night, the women have to milk.
Susie, we're gonna have to cut it here, but I want to have you on again if you would be.
Oh my goodness, anytime we can.
Because I know you've got more. I know you've got more to this, and I want to do it justice. So can we have you come on for a part 2?
I would love that, and I'll have more slides with the nutrition breakdown.
I can't wait. This is so fascinating, and you've done such a great job. What a wonderful work you're doing, and I can only say nothing but positive thanks and appreciation to what you've done here. This is phenomenal work, and
David, thank you.
I'm just blown away by all of it. Your very meticulous details, and the things that you're thinking of are quite important for all of us. So, and I'm just blown away because I wasn't expecting that data. And I mean, when I saw that number, and I remember Ray Pete telling me, we had about 5,000 calories a day, according to me calculating how much we would eat. And he's always telling people to drink milk, and sugar. I'm like,
there is, I mean, and I think, and I talked with Ashley and Sarah Armstrong about this too, because
they're fans of Ray Pete. I know they've talked.
But it makes sense because I haven't been able to eat oxalates in a long time.
Yeah.
And when I went to the Pacific Islands, and I'm living with a tribe that they're eating 90% oxalates of plants like that. Yeah. Before I left, I said, I've got to start putting dairy in. Yeah. So, because remember, calcium helps to usher oxalates out of our body. Yeah. And I think because I have added back in sweet potatoes into my diet. And I'm not having any issues. Usually I get vulvodynia.
So what do you think is going on there with the dairy and the oxalates?
I think it's the calcium. I think the calcium helps to just grab onto it, and it just takes it right out of your body.
You eat it with it? You eat it together?
No. Well, no, I eat it during the day. I have my breakfast now is 16 ounces of raw milk. That's my breakfast. So I have taken.
You're still doing the buffalo and the water?
And now because of Ash and because I researched more, there's so much I want to tell you, David, because I think how the animal, not only is how they're raised, but how they're butchered. And a lot of the people that I was buying from have changed their butchering process because they have to go by the federal standards, which is that they use I find it to be toxic, rinse that they have to put on all the meat before it's packaged. Wow. And Ashley has found a way, and she's working with the FDA, but she's only using vinegar and water.
Oh, cool. Wow.
And so it's natural. And I and
Has anybody ever done that before? That's pretty cool.
she's
That's
amazing. So
amazing.
she and I we've been talking. I gotta tell you, I
I'm gonna
can't.
have to have her on to find out about that too.
She and I have been working. I said, honey, I can't. And so she says, I promise we're going to have this. And I also said, I cannot have anything that has been given dewormer because in research, dewormer does show up in the muscle meat and in the organs.
And the milk, would it show up in milk?
And some are saying it is in the dairy as well. And so none of her animals
Yeah, that's wonderful.
are given and just as in Maasai and any of the pastoralists, they do not give wormers. There's no vaccines. There's nothing. You see them slaughtering. There's no chemicals being sprayed on. You eat it as that's what she says.
Let's just pick up where we left off here. But Susie, thank you so much for what you're doing.
David, thank you for having me
tell
on.
us tell us the website or anything you want people to know about real quick here. Do you have
so now the easiest place to find me, yes, is on Facebook, but the best place, because that's where everything is really on, and my live Instagrams, is on Instagram at Suzanne.Alexander.104. And that's where find all of my things. And
well, really appreciate what you've done. Fantastic work. So we're so excited to see what happens next, and we'll have you on again for part 2. So
thanks,
more to
David.
come.
Thank you,
we'll
darling.
get into some of the implications of this for people. I want to get into that next. So thank you.
Thanks, David. Bless you so much. I love you.